Hi, Tracy Lewis from Stuffin' Things. I have a giant project I'm finishing up for two different events. The Stampin' Dreams blog hop theme for June is birthday, so I picked a stamp set that had a birthday-ish. I tend to like generic happy congratulations, best wishes if I want to have a card be used for multiple purposes. And the other reason why I picked this stamp set is I signed up for a demonstrator swap, and I had to designate which new stamp set I was using, and I picked Stitched All Around. And if you look at the sentiments, enjoy your special day was an option. I went with using best wishes for my birthday message. I had just finished a bigger project with thank yous for a different hop, and so I thought it would be good to go with the best wishes. And I also, to shake things up a little bit, I used two different die cuts from Lily Pad Lake. This particular project is all about die cuts, in fact, and the demonstrator swap instructions were very specific. And prior to owning the actual Stampin' Up! Envelopes, I would not have been able to do the swap because, like I had said in, I think in a previous video, I had always owned these free 2,000 envelopes that I got off of Amazon that were so rough and cheap and just really bad quality, but it took me years to use them up. So I just recently bought Whisper White Stampin' Up! Envelopes. So had I not have just bought those envelopes and received them, I would not have been qualified to do the swap, because it is very strict that you have to use the Stampin' Up! Products only. No retired anything, all new colors. So I think I've satisfied that requirement, and I'm going to walk through what I did and the materials I used. The time it took me to do was 20 cards. I am not good at doing repeat designs, so you'll see some variations in the design. I also don't own enough of any certain color to make 20 of anything, so there had to be some colors. What I did do was go through my colors there, because there was no color restriction on either of these events, and I found a color that I had in abundance called Flirty Flamingo, and it's because I got it last year as a pack with the in color, which comes with 4 pieces, and then I also had 6 pieces of it, as well as 3 extra pieces, so a total of 9 pieces of the cardstock. So given that that was the color I had the most available for these cards, that is the predominant theme, then I picked some colors that I had more of, like 5 sheets, 6 sheets. So that's how the color choices came about. Probably Flirty Flamingo would not have been a color I would have chosen had I had any number of cardstock colors at my disposal. Alright, so we talked about the Stitched All Around and the Lily Pad Lake, so I'm going to set that aside. The cards, there are 20 of them. I'm probably going to go ahead and do I did 3 bases. I went with colored bases this time. And so here was my browns. Actually, did I do more? I did a couple more browns with blue. But you can see that I definitely made it a die cut project and focused on using the stitched background with, this is the Lily Pad Lake, a little less ornate, so I kind of varied that. I used Friend in vellum on many of them, and I used the half circle as well as on a few of them, but what I did when I started out, I made 3 completely different designs. This was one of the initial designs, and I realized it was going to use too much paper, and this is Coastal Cabana, and I didn't have enough of that to work with to be able to use it for more than a few. So I think I did maybe 3 or 4 in that style. So here's the brown. I had to, of course, put a white sheet on the inside of cardstock, and then I also used the Handmade by Stampin' Up! Because that would be a legal thing to use, so I had to stamp and sign all of my cards. I think I only did 2 of this style with the brown and blue. Here's a tan, 2 different tans that I grabbed. I had enough extra crumb cake and soft suede to do some different things with them. This was another one that I really liked, good colors, but I didn't have enough of the Granny Apple Green. You'll see the new glitter dots as well as pearls. I tried to shake it up, make it a little bit different. In this case, I didn't cut the circle in half. I did all of my mats the same. They were, and then I like the skinny 1/16 mat for the secondary mat. So this was 3 3/4 for the top, and then a little under a quarter for the white, and then of course an A2 sized base. So that's that stack. Here's the ones that I did the most of. I had a lot of Night of Navy because that is a color that I use a lot. Some of them I sponged. I actually worked on this. I started to tell you how long. I worked on it all day and didn't finish till 4:30 this morning. They have to go out in the mail today, and there's still some pieces left. I still need to package them in clear envelopes. I made sure last night I did not go to bed until I had the fronts, the insides, the back, and the envelopes done, and then I went to bed. So now I'm getting down to the final organization, put them all in the clear envelopes after I take pictures of all of them, and then get them in the mail by this afternoon. So let's talk a little bit about the envelopes. I started to get a little punkish in the middle of the night, of course, but I decided, since I had my, here's a few more. I think these are the last 2. I have my Stamparatus, and it was probably 3:45 in the morning, and I decided to whip out the envelopes. So here's what I did. I took the stamp, I placed the stamp on the inside. I'll even get the stamp out. Placed it, and I decided that the placement for the stamp was going to be on the flap and the back side empty, because they did say decorate your envelopes. That was a requirement. So here I am at 3:45 in the morning. I'm like, I can do this. So my magnet placement was here. Of course, since I have the foam, I don't need this black foam, so I got rid of the black foam. That was gone. From here, it was, I use spots. I don't use full-size ink pads. I would ink it up. The browns, which I think there's 8 browns, only took 1 inking, and look at how crisp and clear. Because remember, I don't get to use, this is my first time actually owning the Stampin' Up! Envelopes, which is awesome. Because they just really do a nice job on the ink. It's a really smooth, nice cardstock, very heavy. So I did those, 8 of the browns, the blue, and that was Night of Navy, and I had to do 12 of those, and I had to ink twice. So the blue was more work. What I should have done in hindsight is re-inked. Probably when I do projects of this size and I pick my 3 or 4 inks, I used Early Espresso, Soft Suede, and Night of Navy. And I should have re-inked my little spots before I even started, because as it got later into the early morning of the next day, I wasn't going to get up and go dig out my re-inker, which I should have. And that is just a tip. when you're going to do a project and you're doing 20 cards, definitely make sure you are pre-prepared, and one of those steps would be to re-ink your spots. I used, just to show you the materials that I used and how much I used, to give you an idea. I used quite a bit of linen thread for the brown and tan, even the brown, tan, and blue color themes. I feel like I used quite a few of these, and look at how much is still left. I'm very impressed with the volume you get on one of these sheets. Of course, I didn't use any purple at all, and I used mostly the Coastal Cabana and the Granny Apple Green. I totally went through my pearls, and I was actually going to be placing an order. So the nice thing is I had my order sheet up last night on the computer, and as I noticed I was going to okay, I'm going to be using all this up, I went ahead and reordered some supplies. For instance, I had just bought the envelopes and I used 20 of them for this project alone, so I'm down to 20, so definitely reordering envelopes. I used the dimensionals. What I do is I learned how to cut them in half, and I definitely used them in half, and I used less than one sheet. So I have one sheet in here. I probably used 3/4 of a sheet to pop up everything. So I thought that was also a good, by using half sizes, cutting them in half. The hexagons worked really well. I used a lot of mini dots. I only did one in ribbon at the very beginning as part of my mock-up, but my hands are bad, and I'm too slow at making bows, so I decided, okay, bows in general are out. So I switched gears to using the baker's twine, the silver baker's twine, and this is how much is left, and I put baker's twine on, in some way, on probably 80% of them. And I did various things with the baker's twine. So for my hands, doing a big project like this, and if you have bad hands, or your hands, maybe you're arthritic, and I'm arthritic and have way other bad things wrong with my hands. So baker's twine, I found that really easy to use. And let's see, what else did I use? I think that sums it up. I did my sponging for some of them. Later in the evening I started to get bored with what I had been doing, so that's when I added the sponging to kind of spice things up. I used mono glue. How I glued Friend on the top is right where the stitching is, above the stitching of the vellum. I added a thin line of the mono glue. I also, for the half circles, I did a back glue. So both of these elements are glued onto the main label. They were put on separately, then dimensionals were added, and then it was applied to the card. So that sums up my big project. Oh, last thing, I used a black marker. I could have used my Many Marvelous Markers black that I just got, but the Copic Multiliner is my writing pen, and it's what I'm most comfortable with, and since I had to write my signature a bunch of times in the middle of the night, I thought it would be safest to use what I knew I could write with, and then a white gel pen. And of course, my snail. I think that sums up. If you want to see what's left over, there you go. I did 5 cards at a time. I actually cut all the bases and all the fronts, both layers, at the very beginning. So all 20 bases and card fronts mats were cut to the main size. Then from there, 5 cards at a time, I would decide what my general theme was going to be, and I would cut all of the pieces, and that is why there's not a ton of extras. I also have my mistakes. So I'm very proud to say that as I make more and more cards, I'm getting faster, of course, over time. I accidentally stuttered no ghosting. One of the rules specifically for this swap for the demonstrators is no ghosting, no rough edges. You know, make it a high quality, something you would be proud to demonstrate and show to your customers. So I stuttered this a little bit on the Stamparatus It was my fault, and I went, uh-oh, that is a ghost. The only one that ghosted on me. I will definitely use this for something that I send through the mail. I have no problem with it, with the tiny bit of ghosting that I saw. This one was perfectly good, and it was supposed to be brown. So I went, oh. So I forgot to switch colors. I was all done with the blues, and I forgot to clean my stamp off and put away the blue. That's another lesson. When you're late at night and you've got your spots and they all kind of look the same, definitely make sure you keep your lids on and have them out of the way. This is it. The only stutter that I had all day with the die cuts was this one, and I don't really know even what happened exactly, but in my back and forth to do the background, this one stuttered. So that is all of my waste, and these are all of my leftover materials, which I think that was pretty well done and very efficient use of materials. Hopefully you found this interesting and helpful for when you get to be planning your swaps. I don't do them very often, and mainly because I'm not a person who enjoys making 20 of the same card. And that's why pretty much when I do a swap, it's not 20 of the same card. I change things up. And I really did enjoy the process. And I'm happy to have completed my first demonstrator swap. Thanks for watching.